another edition of Hope Rocks Recovery. And again, I hope you enjoyed our theme music, Heaven's Lullaby, written and performed by Terry Falzano in honor of his beloved son, Jordan, who passed away in March. And we honor Jordan with this music, and we're so thankful that his dad put this together and allowed us to use it. We also want to thank our good friends at Mike Farris's #1 fan club. Sue Ross and the team have been selling Mike Farris buttons, and we know Mike, and Mike's a Hope dealer, and they've been donating the proceeds to Hope Rocks. Now, this is an international organization with over 1,000 fans, and we are so excited to be the beneficiary of their generosity, but even more importantly, to have their support and their faith in our mission. So Mike Farris, #1 fans, you rock. Sue Ross and the administrators of that Facebook group, you rock, and thank you so much. I'm so excited to welcome our next guest to Hope Rocks Recovery. And Hope Rocks Recovery is about enlightening, educating, empowering, but most importantly, engaging the community in this counter-assault on the epidemic of death at the hands of mental illness and addiction. And our next guest was brought to us by a local promoter by the name of Patty Hansen, and we're thrilled to be associated with her and her artist. And this particular artist is a gentleman by the name of Joe Burton. And John is an artist. He is a radio host. He's a musician. He's a storyteller. John, welcome to Hope Rocks Recovery. So good to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it very, very much. Thank you.
So, John, you're going to be performing in the next couple of weeks at a local venue, local to me, the Colony in Woodstock. Tell me about that event. It's so good to have these places starting to open up. What's going on?
Yeah, we are doing on July 25th, here comes the plug, on July 25th from 6 to 7. It's COVID safe, it's outdoors. There are picnic tables spread the appropriate amount of feet apart. They serve food, and we are doing a concert from 6 to 7 there. It'll be myself. I have a couple surprise people showing up to help me with a few things. We are doing it in conjunction with you all, and we are super excited about that. And then we'll be following up on August 20th with a bigger, probably a 3-hour show. But this 1 hour this 1 hour you get to eat and decide if you want to come to the 3 hour.
Yeah, that's great. What I love about all of this is that we're finally getting back into seeing each other. And we need that. We need that in a way which I don't think we can adequately understand how much we need human contact and socialization. So this is exciting.
You know what's interesting, and one of my songs is actually about this. I think we understand how much we need, to some degree, we understand how much we need social contact and how important it is to be together safely. What we're really missing, though, are the kind of chance encounters that you have that impact your life. During the shutdown, you never really met anybody that you didn't set out on a path purposely to meet. You and I didn't bump into each other in the grocery store and strike up a conversation and do this. And I think that we've taken, and if you go back and look at how much of your life is by chance, to me that's a big slice of a pie that's lost. And I'm excited that we'll have we'll at least have some folks at a distance together. We can wave at each other and meet each other by chance that way.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I'm excited to get out, and I'm excited to see the people. And let's talk about John Burton. You know,
Okay.
you should be an expert on that.
Yes, that's the one thing I know about.
You have expressed an interest in what Hope Rocks is all about, and what we're trying to bring about in terms of a change, but more in terms of an understanding and an idea where connectedness is far greater than our disconnectedness.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about your experiences. What brings you here?
Sit back. I started drinking at the Olympic level about 15 or so years ago. And I kept it there, which makes it sound like I had some sort of governor on myself, but I didn't. I was a 2 to 3 bottle of wine a day drinker that started early and towards the very end moved to harder alcohol. And that introduced me to a depressive episode that wound up lasting about 3 years. In that time period, I flipped 2 cars, went to jail for a month, lost my job. My relationship was this close, and lost our house, lost everything, and having gotten to the other side of that, I had always wanted to. I'd always been a musician and a performer, and I just kind of decided at the end of it that part of this recovery is going to be completely true to myself. And so you can tell I look like a suit. I used to do corporate for forever, and I just kind of bailed. I bailed on that and said, you know what, this work is more important. And I can tell you that being true to yourself provides much more immediate rewards than fabricating a career. In that, I've taken kind of an alternative path to managing my condition. I'm not an AA guy, and I don't take antidepressants. And I don't recommend that for anybody but me, but I do share it as something that has worked for me. I do a ton of meditation. I have this morning ritual, which would, it's alarming to people who have to live with me, but it works. And I've been sober now for almost 5 years, and my music career has gone from 0 to 100 very quickly, and I'm very, very lucky about that. And my family hung around, so win-win-win.
John, congratulations on your sobriety.
Thanks.
You hit on a number of things that I really want to develop a little bit further. First of all, the idea of being true to yourself. To me, this is one of the most difficult but simply stated things to do. Finding comfort in who we are and finding our center, what it is that we want from our lives. Yeah, that seems like a simple thing to do, but in reality, it's a lifelong journey. And can you talk about that whole idea of being true to yourself and what you needed to do in order to find that path?
Oh, 100%. When you get up in the morning, for me, it was a choice between I can drink or be alone with my thoughts. And I opted for drinking. My thoughts and myself scared the S out of me. I had to confront the stuff I had done poorly. I had to confront the stuff I thought I could do that it turned out I couldn't do. I had to confront, I had to confront my past, and I had to confront, how I was failing, and it was either that, which is, it's a bucket of manure, that, or have a drink and not feel it for today. And in a vacuum, that seems like a simple decision to make. But what winds up happening, I think, is when you accept yourself, the first thing that you realize is that everybody else is in that same bucket that you are. And that the whole time, at least for me, the whole time I was thinking, I have a failed marriage. I know people that are, I go to church with people who've been married 45 years and look like they get along all the time. I've had business failures and business successes. I know people that started their own business and, have a hardware store in the family for 150 years. They must know things I don't know. And you just kind of assume that everybody else has it together and you don't. And so, why would you want to look at that? What you find out is the exact opposite, that as you are more true to yourself and just start taking little bites of yourself and saying, okay, I can live with that. Okay, I live with that. People respond more favorably to it because people smell authenticity and dive all over it. And they share almost instantly, oh yeah, by the way, I confront the same thing. And so when I say I'm not a support group person, in a way that's not true. In the way, the whole world is my support group because I'm constantly connecting with people who have the same thing that I was afraid of in myself. And I realized, well, it's not so terrifying. It's commonality. And so that that started. And then you find out things part of not wanting to confront yourself is not wanting to face what you're bad at. I'm a bad dad, I'm a bad husband, I'm a bad musician, I'm a bad whatever. Once you confront yourself, at least for me, you wind up getting so much better at the garbage that you weren't any good at, because you've taken that layer of imposter out of the way. It takes, I think it takes courage. I think that's one of the hardest steps in facing addiction is knowing that you're going to be left alone with whatever there is once the substance is out of the way.
Right.
And
yeah, keep coming, keep preaching, sir.
Well, so then what wound up happening is I'm a big meditator, and meditation forces you to sit in your own head. And I sat in my own head, and all of a sudden I could write songs that I couldn't write before. I could be honest with people that I couldn't be honest with before. And people who didn't want anything to do with me before were all of a sudden like, I knew that guy was in there. And that's the other funny thing about addiction is addiction. And I don't care what it is. Any addiction creates the impression in you that you're somebody that you're really not. And people around you smell that, but you don't smell it. Once you remove that addiction and you're scared, you're like, holy cow, if I'm not drinking, I'm not funny. If I'm not drinking, I'm not smart. If I'm not drinking, I'm not social. Once you remove that, everybody kind of breathes this sigh of relief and says, okay, now I know who the real John is. Now I like him. and so it takes courage for the first 6 minutes. And I implore everybody, just try it for 6 minutes. Just be yourself for 6 minutes. That first 6 minutes is the hardest part. You'll get a piece of positive feedback. You'll do something you didn't think you could do. You will realize that you got through 6 minutes and you'll say, okay, I can do 7. And then before you know it, you'll be on a broadcast 5 years and doing concerts in Woodstock.
That's great. Hey, you talk about meditation, all right?
Yes.
And Mike Farris, and I don't know if you know who he is, but he's somebody who's been involved with us for the last couple of years, and he's a person in long-term recovery as well, and he talks about the importance of meditation on his life and his recovery.
Yep.
And he refers to a book called Full Catastrophe Meditation, or Full Catastrophe Living, and tremendous book. Tell me some of the difficulties that you had in getting started with the meditative process, because this is not something that you can turn on and find success with. You have to be patient.
100%. So first off, I think it helps to kind of frame what meditation, what your expectations should be. You can do, and I've been doing it a while now, but if you can do a minute or 2 minutes, you derive immense benefit from it. So alleviate the expectation that you have to sit there for 8 hours. Although I have a funny story about that. I went to an overnight retreat at a Buddhist monastery, and the idea was you're going to meditate for 8 straight hours. And when you meditate for 8 straight hours, it's not so much a mental feat as it is a physical feat, because you're sitting still for 8 hours. And so he said, we're going to sit at the end of the 8 hours. And, you could get up and do whatever you wanted, but everybody's kind of looking at each other going, people getting up. At the end of 8 hours, a chime is going to go off, and you're going to, and that'll be the end of the 8 hours. So we're sitting, and, about an hour and a half in, your butt feels like you're sitting on, pick the euphemism. By 6 hours in, you've thought every thought in the universe, and there's nothing left to think about. By 7.5 hours in, you've sung every song you know backwards. 8 hours, we're sitting there, and the chime goes off, and the monk's in the front, and the chime goes off, and there's a clock, so you know when it's coming, and he's still sitting there. 5 minutes, he's still sitting there. 8 hours, 10 minutes, he's still sitting there. And after 8 hours of meditation, you start getting angry. You're like, I don't understand. How does this guy sitting and not knowing that 8 hours is up? But that was the space he was in. So finally, after like 8:15, he looks and goes, oh, I'm so sorry. I lost track of time. I'm like, you lost track of time after 8 hours. Thank you. So I studied Buddhist meditation, Zen meditation. I paid and did the transcendental meditation. And what it really is about, and how I think it helps with addiction, and why I agree with Mr. Ferris that I think it's key, is it gives you an element of control over yourself that you did not have prior. And there's all kinds of euphemisms for that, the monkey mind and all that nonsense. You don't have to get into that. What you do have to realize is that if you sit still and you can control your mind for 1 minute, you can control your mind when you're looking at a drink. Or you can control your mind when you're looking at whatever bad decision it is.
Right.
And it's not so much about wearing a robe and shaving your head, as it is about spending enough time that you get control of you. And the more you learn to control you, the more empowered you are to make better decisions. And the more empowered you are to make better decisions, the healthier you are. Now, for some people, that's 5 minutes a day. For people like me, it's longer. But alleviate yourself of the idea that I'm in a robe and I'm sitting cross-legged and my knees hurt, and get into the idea that I'm sitting in a desk chair, I'm concentrating on my breath for 45 seconds, and when I open my eyes, I will be more in control of myself than I was. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, your blood pressure will go down, you'll think clearer, your memory will improve, you won't age as much and all that, but you'll be in control of yourself. And that's really the tool. That's really the thing.
John, we're here with John Burton, a musician, a storyteller, a radio host, a man of many, many talents and history, which we only have a little slice of. And he's going to be at the Colony in Woodstock on July 25th from 6 to 7 p.m. Again, he's returning in August on August 20th. So if you're local to the Hudson Valley region, come out and see him. But John, I want to ask you, you are enthusiastic. You are somebody who, excuse me, wears your recovery or your personality or your faults with enthusiasm, with humor. And I think that's an important thing that we can learn here, that we are what we are, But if we treat it as a gift rather than a fault, we can really discover some things that maybe we didn't realize that we are.
Whether it is, and you know, when you're talking about addiction, to me, the giant fear or the thought that goes into it is I am happier being addicted than I would be if I wasn't. That's why I do it. Then it becomes a bigger disease and it gets more nuanced. But at the root of it, it is I'm going to take pain away by doing X. And what you find out is that that fear is completely unfounded. So for me, it was walking around for 15 years thinking, you know, oh my God, if I sober up, I'm going to realize, you know, I'm going to realize everything, you know, everything that other people do is horrible, and I'm going to be stuck in that. What you realize is it's so much better. Right. And it sounds so stupid, but it really is true. You realize that you're better, and that things are better. And that makes you enthusiastic, I think. It's not so much giving up something as it is getting free of something, and then managing it so that you stay free of it. And the other great thing, the other thing that I've noticed about addiction is that there's more than one path. And one of the things I think that keeps us entrenched is you sit there and you go, look, for me it was drinking. I drink a lot, but there's no way I'm going to be in a town hall at 11 o'clock at night under fluorescent lights with a styrofoam cup, right, listening to somebody say, my name is Tom, and blah, blah. There's more than one path, and that definitely works. But if that doesn't work, the only other choice you have is an addiction. Right. Right. And so it's worthwhile just to take a look at that. But you know, the big thing is that the bear in the cave that you think is there if you sober up or kick whatever you're kicking isn't really there.
That's a great analogy, the bear in the cave. A great analogy. Yeah. Now, you talked about at the very beginning about how your drinking led to depressive episodes.
Man.
That's a whole different piece of your journey.
Yes, sir.
If you're comfortable, would you 100%. Share some of the things that you encountered along that path?
Yeah. I wound up spending about a year on a couch, and I didn't work, and I couldn't. I really couldn't think. And during that time, and it kind of crept up on me. And during that time, I came to understand depression, not so much as feeling bad, as it is just a constant black ick that's everywhere, and it is the absence of hope. I was suicidal off and on for about a year, I struggled greatly. I was prescribed medication a number of times. I became lithium toxic and wound up losing 22 pounds to just throwing up, trying to kick it, or processing the lithium. And finally I got to a phase, and I'll never forget, I'm laying on the couch, and my then 5-year-old daughter, who, and I'll tell you about that too, is sitting there with me, and I haven't been able to move in literally 2 months, other than maybe to take a shower or sit and have a sandwich or whatever. And she's sitting there, and I said, listen, if I keep taking this stuff and I keep going down this path, I'm just gonna die. And I remember a police officer telling me, listen, your daughter needs you, whether it's now or it's 42 years from now. Your daughter, there's going to be a time when your daughter needs you, and you got to be there. And I thought, and I said, okay, I'm going to go through this journey. and my daughter and I went through this journey together. And what I found, adults have an attention span with people they know who suffer depression. And at first they think it's horrible. And then they have the kind of this compassion window where they're like, oh yeah, John suffers from depression. At some point, almost every adult you know says, all right, knock it off, suck it up. My life isn't that great either. Let's move on. That's not what depression is, but that's what they think. Children don't have that. Children are more like dogs. Children are, okay, I woke up today, dad's not okay, I sit next to dad. Yeah. If I wake up tomorrow and dad's not okay, I'm gonna sit next to dad again. And they don't have an expectation. And my daughter didn't have that expectation on me that everybody else did. People were clamoring, go back to work, write music, tell jokes, do whatever. My daughter was the only one, or be a husband, or be a friend, or be a brother, whatever it was. My daughter was the only one who said, you know what, I'll just hang on the couch, and when you're better, you're better. And she would make me eat. She would get me. She would literally, a little 5-year-old girl, up to I'm cried talking. Her head was barely at my belt buckle, telling me, all right, Dad, if you can get up, let's just go up and down the driveway a few times. And she'd walk me up and down the driveway a few times. And she'd make up stories to tell me, to try to keep me interested, to get me to do another lap. It didn't work for a long time. And then finally I just kind of climbed out of it. And when I climbed out of it, I remember somebody describing somebody else's condition as chronic and saying, listen, you're going to have this condition every day for the rest of your life. You're going to wake up with this condition. You're going to have to manage it every single day. And that's what I decided to do. I don't say I'm over depression. When I do my morning ritual, I wake up and I say, okay, right now I'm going to decide to do this ritual. And for today, I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to make S decisions. And that's the way I'm going to treat today. Tomorrow, I'm not even going to think about it. Just going to do that for today. And I've been doing it for 1,500 days so far, and so far so good. But the depression part, for me, went to suicide really quick. And I realized, people talk about this idea that, you're sitting there staring at your daughter. How could you choose to blah, blah, blah. We touched on it a little bit. This idea that depression is a choice, that it's a bad mood, that you're choosing not to get off the couch, that when you are there, you're not picking between A and B. There's only B.
Right.
When you're people, everybody in their life has probably had a dark moment where they thought, maybe it would be better off if I wasn't here. I am telling you that when you are staring into that tunnel for real, there's no light at the end of it, and there's no other tunnel to pick. It is just you and that black hole right here in your face. And it is not an act of cowardice to suffer. It's not an act of cowardice to really suffer. You're not picking anything. And what is also amazing to me is, because I talk to people. I did a concert. It's so funny. I did, not funny, but I did a concert, and it was being photographed and videoed. And I wrote this song about, I do this song in my show about my daughter and how she kind of saw me through it. And I get done, and this 300-pound guy who's like 6'4", and I am not 300 pounds nor 6'4", comes up, shaved head, and he's crying like in front of everybody. He's crying like a baby, and he hugs me in front of everybody. And he said, you know what? I last month was going to kill myself, and I didn't because of my daughter. And then I realized this isn't something that just happens to a few of us staring down this hole. And how we treat each other, and I'll let you, but how we treat each other afterward is so freaking important. Right. Because my way of handling it was to tell everybody about it and be transparent about it. I have paid a price for that choice. I have lost jobs because of it. I have said stuff online that people have used against me because of it. I have lost friends because of it. I have gotten raised eyebrows from wherever because of it. And I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it any different. And even if you hear this, or you hear my show, or you hear you talk about it, and this isn't your scene, it's somebody you know's scene. And if you understand, it's not a choice they're making. It's not that they have other options. And by the way, their thoughts are every bit as valid, legit, and intelligent as your thoughts. And if that births respect in you, then you can become an asset to somebody who went through this, as opposed to being a liability.
John, you are an outstanding spokesperson for the mission, the philosophy of the Hope Rocks movement, why we're doing what we're trying to do. This is what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen. This is what it's all about. There are many of us that may not understand the depth of darkness to see that you only have option B. There are many of us that don't understand that when somebody, however they get started on their addictive journey, or whichever substance starts them along on their addictive journey, the choice is now over. It's not about choices. And John, you do a fantastic job of explaining that, but you explain it with joy and enthusiasm in the manner in which we need to receive it. The addiction, suicide, you cannot come up with darker subjects, but there's light. There's
you
light.
Really can't, and you know, look, I'm not going to get my honorary doctorate saying that suicide and addiction scare people, but what I will hopefully help you all who are doing amazing work shine a light on is that while it is scary, it is not a flaw, it is not a choice, it is not it is the only path available to you at the time. And unless you can learn dignity for yourself first, and then the people that you surround yourself with can throw big steaming piles of dignity onto what you've created, that's really the key. And that's regardless of your course of treatment, whether you take antidepressants, whether you're in AA, whatever you do, it has to be dignity laced. And if it's not, it will fail. And that is one of the things about Hope Rocks that immediately lit me up was it didn't approach the issues with a condescending helping hand of I'm here, you're not, let me lift. It approaches the issues with a dignity that lets people be open about what's really going on. And that's when you start to get better.
Absolutely. And you know, to further the understanding allows not just those that are in the throes of deep depression and addiction, but it allows those that maybe have family members, that may have tendencies themselves that they really have not been able to identify. But it allows us to see the commonality of all of us and how quickly we could be part of that downward spiral. And more importantly is, in my opinion, is support. You know, let's take this crisis for example. You know, there are some horrible things going on out there, and you know, for whatever reason. But there's also some beautiful things going on in terms of people coming together, dropping whatever it is that is restricting them, and they're reaching out and they're finding ways to connect with people and to share the burden with people, and they're becoming empowered, to becoming strengthened, and they're engaging, and that's what it's all about. Imagine this world where we reached out a hand or put a hand on a shoulder rather than pushing a hand away. And that's what we need. And I think the recovery community and the mental health community are key in demonstrating the power of that particular mindset. So
Yep.
Thank you, John. Man, oh man, it's good to talk to you.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, no, and you're 100% right. I went to the Lexington Center in Mount Kisco to deal with drinking for a little while, and I remember sitting there, and this is precisely to your point. I don't remember what the topic was, but one of the members turned to me and said, "Well, what do you think about whatever they were talking about?" And the thought in my head is, "I'm a drunk. What do you care what I think?" And then the second thought was, "Oh wait, you care what I think." And just it's not like you have to show support by although you should by becoming actively, but you can show support just by the application of dignity, and it feels good to do that too. It really does. But just a basic application of dignity to somebody who's suffering. I write for a living, and I've read a lot, and I've never come across a word that describes what the application of dignity does for an alien human soul.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
So I'm here with John Burton, musician, storyteller, radio host, podcast host, and many, many other things. John, you do a podcast, a radio show called Home From Here, a couple times a week. And tell me about that, and tell me how it got started, what it's all about, because I'm sure that there's a lot of connectedness to your journey, to what you're doing.
Oh, 100%. So Home From Here explores, we talk to artists, we talk to directors, we talk to musicians, and I care about their work, but I kind of don't. I really kind of care about the journey, and how they've conquered their journey. How they've conquered their journey, and getting the tools out of it, getting the tools out of people, explaining how they've done what they've done. So if you come on the show, I will, we'll listen to your songs, we'll talk about your songs, and then we'll talk about and then we'll talk about the challenges. I had a band on the show last week. It was a family band. The wife is Asperger's, the son is autistic, and the father's hilarious. And it's the three of them. And they told such amazing stories about putting their music together. And you would think that would be an obstacle. It turns out that they make it all assets. So we talk about that. We do jam a little bit. But it really interests me how people overcome their crap, because garbage is a gateway to bigger garbage, and how people have managed to get over that heap, I think is a service to everybody to share that stuff.
Absolutely.
And the thing that you find out is that everybody, if you ask the right question, everybody, and I call it the 12-minute rule. Within 12 minutes, if you ask the right questions, everybody has that point at which they need to cry and will just be completely vulnerable. And you understand we're all in this thing together, and we all suffer the same things to different degrees. And it's really fun. It's a fun show. We have about 11 episodes on the racks right now. We were scheduled to open to do it at a facility that got closed because of COVID. We were on a radio station. The radio station closed. We then got picked up by a 450-seat theater to do it there. That's closed temporarily. So we will be, but we'll be back on the minute we can open up. We're thinking sometime in August. Home from here is HOHM, because we do talk a lot about meditation, and the power of meditation. And then sometimes just sit around and being funny too.
Oh man, John, you are performing on the 25th of July and August 20th at the Colony in Woodstock.
Yes.
Tell me about your music. Tell me about what the audience can expect and what your show is like.
So I'm a singer-songwriter. James Taylor is my main inspiration in a lot of things. So my stuff sounds a lot like his, nowhere near as good, but a lot like his. But I do a lot more self-revelation in my shows. I talk about the journey through depression. I talk about the drinking, the flipping the cars, the wife leaving, the whole thing. And then my songs kind of peppering around that. But I also understand that in order to be entertaining, you have to offer uplift. So we do that too. I have toyed around. You wouldn't know it from this interview, but I fooled around with stand-up comedy a lot. So I roll some of that out. And we sing together. It goes one of two ways. It's either great background music if you're eating, or it's really deep water if you feel like participating.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Yeah. The show is June 25th from 6 to 7 p.m. at the Colony in Woodstock, and then again a 3-hour show on August 20th. John, we want to have you as part of our Hope Rocks organization in any way that we can, and I look forward to really developing this relationship with you, because it's one of these things that, the best part of life are the things that are thrown at you organically. And the way this particular connection was made between you and I, and it's just fantastic. Yeah. Unfortunately, I broke the 12-minute rule by about 31 minutes, so...
No worries, man.
We're gonna kind of close this thing down, but John, thank you so much for being part of this. This is terrific.
Thank you. It is one thing to get on a stage and make people cry and give them something to think about. It is a completely other thing to be on the front line like you are, dealing with what happens after that. And you're doing the heavy lifting, man. Thank you very much.
Oh, well, it was a great time. And you are a hope dealer. You are spreading so much joy, enthusiasm, and hope through your story, through your music, through the work that you're doing. And we cannot thank you enough for that. I also want to thank Terrence Falzano for the beautiful Heaven's Lullaby that he wrote and performed for his son Jordan, who wore out from his journey. And we miss Jordan desperately, but we carry on our movement in memory of Jordan and all those that have worn out. I thank Sue Ross and the Mike Farris #1 fans, that Facebook club, fantastic Facebook club. You all are hope dealers. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Join us next time on our next Hope Rocks Recovery, where we'll have another fantastic guest who will be talking about their journey or about their experiences with addiction, suicide, mental health, and the way to find hope when all seems hopeless. I'm Joe Defino. Thank you for joining us. Keep smiling and hang in.